Could a big-time move be coming for the Vikings at this year's NFL trade deadline? Well, that's what we're going to talk about on today's show. Welcome in the Vikings Now. My name is Patrick Siepman. So Vikings reporter Alec Lewis, who works with The Athletic, wrote up a really interesting article in his latest Q&A session, and he hinted at the Vikings possibly making a big-time move. So I'll go over 9 guys who I want the Vikings to bring in and also go over my top trade target, as he is a defensive lineman that plays for the Tennessee Titans. But later on today's show, I do want to wrap up my thoughts on the Vikings possibly benching Ed Ingram for Dalton Risner, how I think the Vikings should approach it, and also what Alec Lewis is hearing in the organization. We'll share his thoughts on that as well. Before we dive into it, guys, want to say thank you so very much. We crossed over 36,000 subscribers early on today, and it is all credit to you guys. You guys have been showing all types of support, and I really do appreciate it. So seriously, thank you guys so much. And if you guys haven't hit that sub button already, please do so. I post a video every single day around the Minnesota Vikings. So if you guys want to stay up to date on the latest rumors, news, or whatever it may be around your favorite football team, just hit that sub button. Let's dive into Alec Lewis and what he had to say around the Vikings heading into this year's trade deadline. He said this year's deadline is November 5th, Election Day, and right after the Vikings' Week 9 matchup with the Indianapolis Colts. By then, the health on the roster will probably matter in terms of decision-making. Besides Aaron Jones, who O'Connell said Tuesday is week to week with a hip injury, the roster is mostly healthy, and the health will improve with eventual returns of tight end T.J. Hockenson and guard Dalton Risner. During GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's tenure, he has not let a trade deadline go by without making a move. In 2022, the Vikings swung big for Hockenson. Last year, they fortified their quarterback position with Josh Dobbs. Now, here's the kicker. We should expect something. The question is how aggressive they'll get with a minimal bundle of picks in the 2025 NFL Draft, and losing any defensive contributor could lead to some tire kicking, and Jones's health is another spot to watch. But broadly, though, the staff is satisfied with the roster's depth. Now, I fully anticipate Kwesi to make a move. It's just going to come down to what type of move is he going to make. Is he going to swing big for a trade target like a Jeffery Simmons, or is he going to try to maybe attach like a late 6th, 7th round pick in a future draft to possibly land a guy that's just going to get you better on the margins? But my number one trade target for this football team, man, we talked about him a lot here on the channel, but it's got to be Jeffery Simmons. Now, I think the Vikings are in a spot where they can get aggressive. Now, you already went through your hardest part of the schedule. You beat the Niners, the Packers, the Texans, and the Jets, who are all very, very good football teams. And if you would add a guy like Jeffery Simmons to this defense, I compare it to Thanos, for all my Avengers fans out there, when he finally gets that last Infinity Stone and he gets all the powers, that's how I would view his impact on this Vikings defense. And if you could get a true blue chipper, because I love what they have done defensively, but they don't have a true all-pro, a true, best in the game at their respective positions, Jeffery Simmons is just that. So I would be more than willing to move off next year's first-round pick and maybe attach a third, because if you could get Jeffery Simmons, who is still only 27 years old, this defense might not be just the best in the league this year, but one of the best defenses we have seen in recent memory. Now, let's go to a bold one, and I want to preface this by saying the Vikings would only call the Browns about Nick Chubb if Aaron Jones were to have to miss, multiple months. I don't think they would try to throw a third for him if he's just going to be out for a month, because then once Aaron Jones returns, who's going to be your lead back? It would probably be Chubb, as he is a little more talented than Jones, but this would only be a move where, let's just say the Vikings, they get some bad news on Aaron Jones. I could see them going aggressive in the trade market at the running back spot, but, I get it to my third one here, and then this one, if Vikings fans, if you're looking at Monday Night Football this week, Jets versus the Bills, we should be rooting for the Bills to kill them, because the Jets, they're in turmoil right now, and they're falling off a cliff. They just fired their head coach after the loss to the Vikes in London, so maybe they could view Quinnen Williams as a possible piece to, help them in the post-Rodgers era by getting them more draft capital to potentially go trade up for a quarterback, because my argument to the Jets would be, you can have all these blue chippers defensively, but if you don't have a quarterback, you're going to be in the same position you have been over the last couple of years. So I would love Quinnen Williams, but he's definitely a lot more unlikely than Simmons. But what about Dameon Pierce? Now, I'm a fan of Dameon Pierce. He runs really hard. He's definitely hasn't lived up to the hype that we expected for him after his rookie campaign with Houston. But with Joe Mixon, Cam Akers really manning that group, I could see Houston moving off him. And then we get to my fifth one here. This is going to be Jaycee Horn. Now, I think the Vikings are fine at the cornerback position as it stands right now. However, they are losing all three of their starters this next offseason. So maybe they could view a guy like Horn, a young and up-and-coming corner, could be another blue chipper in this defense. I would be thrilled that the Vikings could get him for like a third and a fifth-round pick. But very similar thoughts here with Paulson Adebo. He's had a great year with the Saints. He's a very versatile player, and as we know, the buzzword with Brian Flores is versatility. Adebo is that, and the Saints, they got a lot of question marks. Like, are they going to want to pay Adebo with them being in, cap space hell the next couple of years? I'm not sure, but another guy like Greg Newsome, I think he would cost less than a guy like Adebo. And Newsome, he's versatile. He's a very, very smart player. I think he would fit in perfectly with what Flores likes to do. And then also Chuba Hubbard. With Jonathan Brooks, I believe, being now the new lead back in Carolina. Plus, they got Miles Sanders. Like, I think Chuba could be on the trade block. And, I would be fine if the Vikes gave up like a third or a fifth for Chuba if it did mean, like, Jones was out for a month. But, again, like, if Jones is only out for maybe the Lions and Rams game and he's all good week 9 versus the Colts, I'm fine with running with Ty Chandler. But, again, I could expect the Vikings to get aggressive for a running back if Jones were to have to miss more time. And then the Vikings were actually connected to Amari Cooper. And I'm not saying they should go out and get him because I am very confident in this wide receiver group as it stands right now. But could you imagine Jefferson, Addison, Cooper, and TJ Hawkinson with Aaron Jones as the tailback and the 2 elite tackles? Like, man, that would be the best weapon, combo in the entire National Football League. So, maybe if they could get him for a fifth, I would have some intrigue with them. But again, I am totally fine with them running with the same wide receiver group they have. I think it's Super Bowl caliber, but Cooper could be a guy with the Browns struggling. Keep your eyes out on him. And plus, I could see the Chiefs trying to get him. And if you're looking way too in the future to a Chiefs-Vikings Super Bowl, it wouldn't be a bad idea to keep Cooper away from Kansas City. But I just gave you guys 9 names. You guys just got to give me one name down below in the comment section. Name a player the Vikings should trade for. Let me know your thoughts down below. Really curious to see what you guys have to say. But for me, number 1 by far, it's got to be Jeffery Simmons. Now, we'll talk about Dalton Risner versus Ed Ingram here in a second. But first off, I do tell you guys about today's presenting sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. If you guys download the Prize Picks app and use promo code CLNS, you guys will get $50 instantly when you play just $5. So what is Prize Picks? Prize Picks is the best way to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Now, Prize Picks is my favorite way to add any more extra juice to a football or basketball game you're watching. And if you guys download the app right now and sign up today, you guys will get $50 instantly when you play $5. Best part is, you don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. So download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, let's talk about Ed Ingram possibly getting benched for Dalton Risner. So I'll say this. I think Ed Ingram's got one more chance against the Detroit Lions. That's what I'll give him right now. Like, he has obviously struggled since that Giants game. He played a little better against the Niners and the Texans, but he started reverting to his old self against the Jets and the Green Bay Packers. Now, I will say this. Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams is not an easy matchup for any guard in the National Football League, but there's no doubt Ingram has struggled. Now, Alec Lewis was asked about this in his latest mailbag session, and this is what he had to say. Asked if the Vikings are considering benching Ingram, he said yes. But the Vikings aren't just going to hand him Ingram's job, talking about Risner. Though Ingram has accounted for the second most pressures in the league among guards, he has been an effective run blocker, which is true. Risner's back must allow him to play, and if that happens, he must prove he can handle the right guard spot. And also, this is interesting. Right tackle Brian O'Neill commended Ingram's communication ability a couple of weeks ago, so the continuity is a factor too. And I totally agree with that. Like, I think, like, too much as fans, like too much as fans, we just view it as like, oh, you can just plug and play linemen at any given position. And, yes, that is true in some regard, but I think we got to realize like continuity matters so much. And that's what the Vikings have right now with this 5-man group of offensive linemen. Yes, Blake Brandel is new this season, but that 4 of Darrisaw, Bradbury, Ingram, and O'Neal, they have all been playing together for 3 years now. And yeah, Brandel has stepped in at the left guard spot and been amazing, but I don't think it would take that much of an adjustment to, put Risner in at right guard. And, that's why I stand by it. Like, if Ingram struggles versus Detroit, and let's just say the Vikings lose, and a big reason of that is maybe like they start lining Aiden Hutchinson over the left guard and teams really start picking on Ed Ingram more than we've already seen, I could see the Vikings taking the pass blocking ability of Risner, even if he is not the better run blocker, which obviously the Vikings have made a point of emphasis on running the football this season. I still could see them, going in the likes of Risner over a guy like Ingram. That's just where I see it right now. But again, I don't think this is a move where it's going to make or break the season. Like, whoever's starting at right guard, I got faith in them to get the job done, whether it's Risner or Ingram. But if he really starts struggling and Ingram is clearly that, weak link on that offensive line, I wouldn't hate turning over the Risner. He's 29 years old. He's a veteran. He played very good last season. He came in hot. And the PFF grades, 57.1 overall, 67.4 pass block. Like, that's pretty damn good. And run block, it's not like he falls off a cliff compared to Ingram. Like, here, look at right here. Run block, 50, pass block, 67, where Ingram this year is 29 pass block, 62 run block. So I'm okay with taking maybe the less in the run blocking department, even though he is a significantly better pass blocker compared to Ingram. But I'll toss this question to your guys' way to wrap up today's show. Who should start? Give me a DR for Dalton Risner or give me an EI for Ed Ingram. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. And also, if you guys want to give me a follow on Twitter, a little different setup for today's video. So hopefully you guys appreciated it. But thank you guys so much for watching today's show. We will see you guys next time. As always, SKOL Vikes.